Hi, my name is Dyllan from Four Boys Diesel. Today we are going to be opening up a Fass 165 gallon and a no limit sump that we are going to be installing on a 2001 Dodge Ram. Alright, let's get this open, huh? Alright. So the first thing you're going to see when you open up the box is you're going to have the electrical. Just set that aside. You have your fuel hose. And then all the fittings, couplers, everything you need to assemble the Fass and install it. Send you a nice little sticker. Let's get that out of the way. And then under all that, you keep digging down there. Then you'll see your Fass. It should come just like this. You got your filters. Yeah, they show you where each filter goes. So you can't mess it up. You have your brackets. Set this up right here. Now let's get to this no limit sump. And here you have your same thing, your fittings, O-rings. Here's the piece that goes inside the tank. Send you a nice little koozie. And a sticker. And then your hole saw to cut into the tank. And then the sump. Let's get this thing unwrapped so we can show y'all. So this is what your sump should look like. Alright. Let's start assembling the Fass, huh? First thing first, you're going to take this, get it unwrapped. I normally start off by just installing the filters. Now inside one of these filters, you're going to have an O-ring. And it'll show you where the filter and O-ring goes. So let's get this O-ring. Take all that trash, throw it away. Get that O-ring, slide it over. Grab a little bit of grease. Grease up these O-rings on these filters. So this filter shows that it goes without the standpipe. Get that nice and tight, snug. Move on to your next filter. Get that O-ring lubed up and throw it on. All right. Take your Fass, flip it upside down. Get your hardware, dump it out. Start by separate everything. Hose clamp, fitting. Here's your bolts and hardware. Let's start off by using those. So you're going to take this bag, get these spacers out, set them up. Me personally, I like to put a little Loctite on all the bolts just to make sure it's nice and secure. Don't want this thing coming loose down the road. Take this bracket, set it right there. Put your bolt, get that started. Get your next bolt. Now you're going to be using the smaller bolts, not the bigger bolts. The bigger bolts are to mount this bracket to this bracket, and this bracket bolts up to your bed bolt, I believe. It should only take 3 bolts to bolt this bracket to your Fass. They're 11 millimeters. Take your impact, get them nice and snug. Alright, let's take this, flip it over now. You're going to take this 90-degree fitting, you're going to throw it on the side over here where it says tank, the T. Get that started. Next, you're going to get this fitting, and this is going to go to your engine port. Feed to engine. Should be a 7/8. Tighten that one up. Alright, got that nice and snug. You're going to take your 1-inch, tighten up your 90-degree fitting. Since we are going to be throwing a sump on this, we're going to set this to where it is facing downwards. Just like so. Alright, I'll bring this up so y'all can all see this. So, here's your 90-degree fitting. You're going to face that down. That's going to go straight to your sump for tank, from tank to Fass. So this is going to be your return. And then this is going to be your feed to engine. So you got your bracket mounted, you got your fittings going. Next, we will get the truck brought in and get it installed. Alright, so now that we have this truck on the lift, we are going to start by marking the center of the tank to mount the sump and get it draining. First thing first, what I like to do is grab a rag and some brake clean, get your tank nice and clean. All that dirt and debris, get it nice and wiped away. You want a clean surface. Next, of course, the tank is black, so you're going to need a Sharpie that will show on black, so I chose silver. Now, I found the center of the tank is right here. So I went ahead and marked it where the X is. So after you mark the center of the tank, I like to make sure that it is center and it looks proper. So I'll take the sump and I'll mark it up. You get that X right in the center of the sump. Make sure it looks good on both sides. Look center of the tank. Looks good. So we're going to start draining this fuel. All right. So this truck has a little over half a tank, of fuel in it. That's quite a bit. Normally we like to have the customers bring in the truck with very minimum fuel in it, because it makes my job a lot easier. All right, so now that we have this hole marked, we are going to open up the box that came with the sump. It has the hole saw in it and drill bit. This is what it should look like right here and right there. I don't know about y'all, but I like to keep my tools clean, so I stick a rag around my drill. Here you go. Take your drill bit, go right in the middle, nice and slow. All right. Having that rag over my gun kept my gun nice and clean and dry. Don't want to get your electrical tools covered in fuel. All right, so while this is draining, we are going to get the Fass installed onto the truck. All right, so now while we have the fuel draining in the truck, we're going to take our Fass, flip it upside down, get this rubber grommet right there. I set it just like so. You get your hardware, put your washers on. Like I said earlier, I like to put a little bit of Loctite on all of it, even though the nuts are locking. I don't want this thing flying off down the road. You don't have to go crazy with it. So now we're going to take this bracket right here, bolt first, nut and backside. And these are 14 millimeter bolts. If you're wondering the size of socket you need, and wrench. Okay, make sure your bracket is nice and straight, flush with each corner of the other bracket. See how you flush right there and flush on this side. We're going to take a 14 millimeter socket and wrench, hold that one side, start tightening in a crisscross pattern. Okay, now that that's nice and secure, your Fass is ready to be installed in the truck. Don't forget to check on your fuel draining. You don't want that thing to overflow. Okay, now that we have our Fass assembled, fuel draining, I went ahead and took the bolt out of the bed. It's a 15 millimeter head. 9 times out of 10 on an older truck, the bolt's going to be rusty. So I like to replace it with a new bolt. So I put a little bit of Loctite on there. Okay. Now you're going to take your other rubber bushing. This goes on the top, right? Just like so. Then your bolt goes straight through. Okay. Take it to the truck. All right. Now, take your Fass. Nice and straight. Just like that. Your Fass is installed. Thanks to Trexan, I believe. Make your job a little easier. Alright, so now we are going to move on to installing the sump once this fuel is drained. Alright, so now that we have our fuel drained all the way, you're going to want to put some safety glasses on because this can get a little messy. You're going to take your hole saw, set it up just like so. I like to go backwards just to get the groove, and then go forward. Nice, slow, steady. You're going to have some fuel spraying out, but nothing you can do about that. Okay, we are through. Get your hand in there. All this plastic shavings out. Don't be afraid to get dirty. Okay. Alright, so what we recommend doing is pumping some fuel into the fuel tank to get all the plastic shavings that was introduced into the tank when we were drilling the big hole. So, not everybody will have these. You can use a normal gas tank if you want, but this is what we have. So, put some fuel in there and get all that plastic ran out. Okay, so now that we have the tank all cleaned out, we're going to take a Scotch-Brite. You're going to want to clean up the edges, make sure it's nice and smooth. You don't want this thing to leak. Take any of these little plastic pieces out. Okay. It's your rag. Wipe it down. Nice, clean hole. Okay. Now you're going to go grab your piece of sump that goes into the tank. You're going to take it like this. Slide it in. It's okay if there's a little fuel that comes out. You're going to want to line this pipe up to that hole that's in the piece that's in the tank. Take your bolt and start it and seat it. You want to make sure it's straight. And it is going to be an 8mm Allen headed. Pretty straight. Okay. So now that you have your bolt in there and your sump mounted, start it with your hand. Get a torque wrench. Torque it down to 22 foot-pounds. Nice, easy, and slow. Okay. Now that is torqued up. So after you get your sump torqued up, you want to go get the Boss O-ring plugs that cap off the bottom of the sump. One's bigger, one's smaller. The size Allens that you'll need is an 8 and a 6. The bigger one, of course, is an 8. Goes right there in the middle. Don't forget to lube your O-rings up. Get that started and get this other hole plugged up. You don't have to go crazy. Nice and snug. Don't want to strip anything out. So now that we have our Fass mounted and our sump mounted, we are going to move on and start making our lines from the sump to our Fass, and then the Fass to the injection pump. All right, so you're going to get the hoses that came out of the Fass box. You're going to want to start off by greasing up one of the fittings and get it mounted up to the Fass. This side is going to be from tank. So you're going to take your hose, go to your sump. There's going to be two ports. One says feed, one says return. Feed is to tank of Fass, so you want to mount it up, mark it, And you don't want this nice and smooth. You don't want it too tight, and you don't want it too sloppy. It looks way better if it's just right there. Nice smooth transaction of the fuel. So let me go ahead and cut this hose. We got our hose cutters right here. Cut. You can take this hose off. So a little bit of grease makes it slide on a lot easier. Remember, make sure you go to the right port of the sump. Take this hose and push until this yellow ring, you cannot spin it with your fingers. Like that. Just like that, you have your feed hose. Alright, so now that we have both hoses ran, you're going to take a 7/8 wrench and you want to tighten up the feed to your Fass line. You don't gotta go crazy. Nice and snug. You're not gonna want to tighten up your return line just yet, just so you can tighten up the engine feed line to your injection pump. But what we will go ahead and do, get your fuel lines, a couple zip ties, zip tie these hoses together. So, clean installs only around here. And that's what that should look like. So now we have our sump completed to our Fass. And the next thing we're going to work on is running our feed line from the Fass to our injection pump and then the electrical. Alrighty, we got our sump done, or our Fass done. Now we're going to start working on the feed line to the injection pump. Get your fitting, install it onto your blue hose. Once again, make sure this yellow tab doesn't spin. Take your return line back off. It just makes it easier to tighten the fittings up. Okay. I already have it ran through the frame. You're going to take that. Engine feed is on top of the Fass. Just like that. Take a 7/8 wrench. And tighten it up. Then, take your return line. Okay, we got that going. Take your wrench, tighten up your return line. Okay, got all fuel lines going to Fass and from sump. The rag, clean off your filters. Nobody wants a dirty filter. All right, now we're going to start working our hose up towards the injection pump. All right, we have our fuel line on the inside of the frame. You can see these hard lines right here. I'm just going to zip tie it to those lines. I like to work my way from the Fass to the engine bay. Makes it a little easier for me. Other people may do it a different way. Okay. Now we're going to put this hose going up towards the injection pump and lower the truck. Alright, so now that we have our fuel line ran all the way up to the injection pump, we are going to take this banjo bolt out. It has the Schrader, and this is coming from the filter housing to the injection pump, supplying fuel to the injection pump. We're going to first take this. I've already taken it loose, if you are wondering. It is a 17 millimeter. Take this bolt out. And that's what it should look like. Take that. You don't need that no more. What I like to do is take this piece off right here, because if you don't, and you leave this tied up out of the way, whatever is in this fuel filter housing will leak out and it'll look like you have a fuel leak. So what we're going to do is take a rubber cap and cap off this line right back here so we have no fuel leaks. And then we're going to get this supplied fitting. Came from Fass. It's normally in a red bag. I've already opened it. They're going to install it onto the pump. So you're going to get this fitting started by hand tight, and you're going to grab a 19mm wrench and you're going to snug it up. Okay, now that is installed, you're going to grab the fuel line that's coming from the Fass. I've already had it ran up. And install it onto the injection pump. Okay, and let me grab my 7/8 wrench. Kind of bend it up away from the power steering cap so you can still check your power steering fluid. And snug it up. And that's how it should look when it is done. We are going to move on to the electrical side of the Fass and get it wrapped up. Get this customer back on the road. Alright, so now we are going to open up the electrical wire harness. Get everything out of the bag. There's your harness, there's your relay, there's your cover. Throw that away. Don't need those just yet. Alright, take this. Okay. I like to start off by putting the relay in. I do a little bit of dielectric grease into the connector. Install the relay. And this is called Tesla tape. So it looks like OEM tape, smooth, and it's water resistant. So we're going to take this. And tape up that relay and that connector. You don't want no water getting in there, causing any issues. The stuff is really hard to tear, so you might need a pair of dikes, flush cuts, razor blade, whatever you have. And take that, slide that right over, and then your relay is protected. Now let's take it to the truck and get the wire harness ran. Alright, so I'm going to take this in that plugs into the Fass and run it back. Okay. Go up underneath, grab your harness, pull it down. Okay. So now we're going to go back up with the truck so we can run this harness down the frame to the Fass, zip tied up nice and neat. Okay, so after the truck is in the air, we got that harness, run it down, through. Just follow that hose that you ran earlier, basically. Got electric grease right there in that connector. You don't want to put too much. Connect it. What I like to do is take a zip tie, run it through the bracket. Okay. So we've got that connector zip tied up, and we are going to start running zip ties along the hose with this electrical harness. Okay, so basically what you saw in that time lapse was me running the harness up to the engine bay, zip tying it up out of the way, mounting the relay right here on the firewall, just cleaning up wires here and there. Uh, Basically, we got our wires ran up to our battery. Green is going to be negative, red is positive. Don't have a fuse in there just yet. We're going to go ahead and get the terminals put on, each one. All right, let's get these mounted up. You're going to use the supplied ring terminals that came with your Fass. You're going to hook up your positive first. There's no fuse in there, so there should be no spark. I went ahead and got 2 new nuts to add to these terminals. 9 times out of 10, these older terminals, you touch that nut, it's either going to break the terminal or it's going to strip. So I'm just going to go ahead and not deal with that and put new nuts. Okay. Once you have your terminals hooked up, then you can take the cap off for your fuse. Pop your fuse in there and move on to your excite wire. So the last wire you're going to be hooking up is your excite wire. They send this wire with a fuse tap, but on these second gens, all the fuses are hot. So you're going to go to the mechanical fuel pump down there on the side of the block. It has a little connector. You're going to disconnect it. If you don't have the Deutsch connector right here to plug into that factory connector, you can cut that connector off and just hook it straight up to the hot wire on that side. So you're going to put your pin on, take your little tool, pull it, check it, make sure it's good. Pull on it, make sure it doesn't come out. Fix your harness. Yep, positive on positive. And then you're gonna zip tie it out of the way of your steering rod. All right, so now that we have the Fass and sump installed, everything is ran, we are going to prime this fuel system. Okay, what you want to do first is come down here to your Fass. You want to grab the first filter. It's going to be your water separator. You're going to want it to where it's kind of loose, right? I'm going to come to the truck. Since this is a Dodge, you're going to have to bump it to get the fuel pump to kick on. Okay. And you're going to wait until fuel comes out and then tighten it up. Wipe off your filters. Let that pump run. Get all the air worked out of it. Clean off all the excess fuel that came out of that filter. Make sure there's no other leaks. It looks like we are good. So we are going to attempt to start the truck. All right, so now that we have the Fass primed, we're gonna go inside the truck and see if it starts. Of course, we are gonna have to bump it a few times to get the fuel pressure to get up to the injection pump. It may take a few cranks for it to start, so don't be worried. As long as your Fass is hooked up right and it is pumping, you should have no issues. Just like that, you can install the Fass.